How's it going, everybody? And this tutorial, I wanted to show you guys how to create a simple health system. And to do that, we're going to use something called an actor component that we can apply to any of our characters or any other actors in the scene. So to get started, let's go to the content browser. And let's go over here into the third person blueprints folder. And I'm going to right click, create a new blueprint class, and let's do an actor component. And let's call it health system. And let's open it up. So to set up a simple health system, we're going to need some variables to store our current health, our max health, and letting the game know and the player know whether something is dead or not. So to do that, let's go over here and create a new variable. I'm going to call this current health. And let's change it to a float variable. I'm using floats for this example instead of an integer because the built-in damage system to Unreal uses float values. So we've got current health, and let's create another one for storing our max health. And you'll see why we use that one here in just a second. So we've got current health, we've got max health, and let's create another one. This one's going to be a Boolean, and let's call it isDead. There we go. Change it to a Boolean here. Compile, save. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of the tick function, and I'm going to set up these variables real quick. And if you notice, I'm actually setting my value to 100 right here, but I'm also going to set those values as soon as the game runs. And the reason for this is just to make sure that whatever our max health is, it will also update the current health. So if you accidentally forget to change one of these, it'll do it for you as soon as the game runs, as long as you change this one on your character. So let's grab the max health, and let's pull in the current health, and take max health, and we're going to set up current health as soon as the game starts. And then we're going to drag isDead into the graph, and we're going to make sure that that's false as soon as the game starts. So we don't want our character dying as soon as we run it. Okay, so let's select all of these, right click. Let's collapse it to a function. And I'm going to call it init health. And init is just short for me, is short for initialize. So initialize health. So if we need to run this logic again, we can just call this function here. So that's good. Now let's figure out how we want to receive damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new custom event here. And you could do this with a function too if you'd prefer. I'm going to do it as an event so I can show you how the differences between these two. Let's type in take damage. So when we receive damage from the character and we apply this health system component to that character class, it's going to come here, and we're going to use an input to decide how much health is being lost or gained. So let's type in damage amount here, change it to a float since that's what our other variables are. Now we need to decide on some logic for what happens as soon as we take damage. So what I usually do first is I grab the current health, and we're going to make sure that our wrong one. We're going to make sure that the damage amount is less than the current health in order for us to update our current health value. Because if you do this afterwards, you might find that your health variables may be going negative or over your max value. So we're going to figure out how much damage is. Is it greater than or equal to current health? And whether it's true or false, we're still going to update the current health value. We're going to do a little math to do that. But this also determines whether isDead is true or not, and what to happen afterwards once the character is dead. So let's take current health here, and I'm going to set it twice, both for true and false. So we're going to just copy and paste that there. And let's pull in another current health, or I could have just copied that one. So let's do a little math here. Let's take current health, and I'm going to subtract whatever the damage amount is. Okay? And let's plug that back into these right here. So I take damage. Is it greater than current health? So let's say this is 100 damage and I only have 50 health. Well, that is greater. So it's going to go to true. It's going to update my health, and then we're also going to set is dead to true. Now if it's false, I'm just going to update my health and not worry about it. So we've got our simple logic here for subtracting health. I'm also going to add some print strings to this to make sure it works. There we go. Okay, let's do print string there. Let's also do one right here. Let's type I'm dead. There we go. So compile, save. Okay, and then let's go to the character, third person character. Now if I go to the graph, the viewport, we've got a character here, and let's add health system. There we go. Compile, save. Here's our health system. And over here on the right side, we have the default tab, because we haven't set up any categories yet. We have current health, max health, and is dead. That's great. Let's go to the event graph, and let's start setting up how we actually receive the built-in damage function. How do we send that to the health system component, and also how to apply damage. So first we're going to do the receiving side, and then we'll do the applying side. So I'm going to type event any damage. There's actually 3 different types of the built-in damage. There's any damage, there's point damage, and there's radial damage. So we're going to just use this one for now. You've got several different variables here that will tell you what type of damage. I'll tell you how much here, and then we have who caused it, basically, or what caused it. So we're just going to use this one right now and have that feed into our health system, and we're going to call that take damage function right here, or that event. So let's hook that up, and look at here, we can hook that right into there. So we receive damage, goes to the health system, and then we go to our take damage event here and run this logic. Now we need something to apply damage, and in this tutorial I'm actually going to use a little keyboard shortcut so I can apply damage to the character itself. And then in the next tutorial I'll show you how to create an actor that will apply damage, like a projectile or damage volume or something like that, just to make it simple. So I'm actually going to use the letter E on my keyboard. So I'm going to type in input E. Let me find it here. There it is. Whoops. And let's do this. When I press the letter E, I'm going to apply damage. Right? Now when you use this node, you have all these things here, and when this is called, it'll find the blueprint that it's talking to, and it'll show up on the other end like this. Here's all those variables again. So, damage actor, which blueprint are we applying damage to? Well, that's our blueprint. So, self. Base damage, let's do 20. So if I hit E 5 times, then it will cause the player to die. Okay, so we've got the receiving damage, we've got the applying damage. So this should work when we go back to the map and test it. So I'm going to save, hit play. Now if I press E, if you look in the top left corner, you'll see the damage values pop up. I'm sorry, the health values. So start with 100, now we have 80, 60, 40, 20. I'm dead. So it works. Now if I keep pressing E over and over, I don't have anything that says just do that once, so that's why it keeps printing out I'm dead. So great, that works. Now, what should happen after the player dies? Well, maybe we want them to play an animation, or maybe we want them to ragdoll, or simulate physics. But that, if we put that logic here in the health system, that doesn't make this modular, meaning that we can't use it for other blueprints that might also have a health system. And if that's the case, then you'd have to do a bunch of switching and branching to decide, oh, is this a character? Is this a vehicle? Is this an enemy, NPC? Doesn't matter what, a turret. So instead of put all the specific logic in here, we might as well just do that in here. Now the question is, how do we get this linked up to here when the character dies, or the pawn dies? What we can use is an event dispatcher. So let's create one right here in the health system. We call it Death Dispatcher. And I'm going to go to the true logic chain over here where the character dies. Take my Death Dispatcher and call it right there. And what this does is it sends an event out as like a signal, and then we can pick it up inside of the character it's attached to. So compile, save. Let's go back to the character. So here's my health system. If you notice, I have a new event right here. It says Death Dispatcher. So remember, because all of our blueprint logic starts from an event here, and it reads from left to right. Here's our event that starts the chain. So when the character dies, this specific character, then we can add our specific code. And in this example, we're going to do set simulate physics. And we're going to select the mesh there for the character, and then we're going to simulate. Compile, save. Now the tricky part about this, and this took me a while to figure out, you have to make sure that your character, if you're simulating physics, has the right collision settings. So if you click on your mesh over here, these are the settings that I use in order to get this to work. I changed the collision preset to custom. I set the collision enabled to physics only, the object type to physics body, and then for the collision channels, the only thing I'm blocking are the world static and world dynamic. So pawns, visibility, camera, vehicles, other ragdolls, I'm not colliding with those. Just colliding with anything in the world that basically stays still and doesn't move. So you can change this however you'd like. That's what works best for me and for this tutorial. So I'm going to File, Save. So let's see if that dispatcher works. So I'm going to press the letter E, 100, 80, 60, 40, 20. Yay, any ragdolls. Awesome. So that's it for this tutorial. And the next one I'm going to show you how to set up actors that will apply damage to other actors. Things like projectiles and damage volumes. And also how to do something like a health pickup, or we could use the same health system here to actually gain health instead of subtract it. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial.